I'm Aseel from Frazer back again. Today I'm excited to be talking to Rebecca Russell, Head of Talent and Engagement at Lint Bells. Becca has over 9 years of progressive HR experience in private equity-backed SME environments. Today we're discussing the hot topic, building a world-class employee experience in a multi-generational workforce. EX is getting a lot more focus nowadays as businesses navigate welcoming a different type of employee into the workforce. The newest workforce, Gen Zs, are willing to challenge all existing workplace norms. Becca, nice to see you today.
Hi.
And how would you describe employee experience? And why is it so important for businesses to be focusing on it?
How I explain employee experience is it's a journey. So we're talking about the employee life cycle. So from actually trying to attract talent all the way through to recruiting them, onboarding them, and then engaging and developing them and really allowing them to shine. I think it's really important for businesses to be focusing on creating that unique, special employee experience because the war for talent is as hot as ever. Employees are now being able to select who they want to work for based on things that historically they haven't thought about, such as purpose or what they're doing for the environment or how they're treating their individuals. So it is really important to create those unique moments that matter throughout that whole life cycle and journey. I mean, recently Gallup did a survey and found that through their State of the Workplace report, found that employees are losing $8.8 trillion in unproductive, unengaged workforce. So it's really important that we put people at the core of everything that we do and really focus on those interactions because that employee perception is so important. I think businesses need to be focusing a lot more on that employee experience, not just engagement, which is I see as the metric to measure how important we're seeing employee experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, the number of times I have conversations with candidates and, you know, they're very mission-led, very values-driven, and they really want to know what these organisations stand for and who they really are. And that all feeds into kind of wider EX conversation. So I've got some stats here. Gen Z now make up 25% of the workforce, millennials 35%, and Gen X 31%. So my question is, what factors do businesses need to consider when they're thinking about multi-generational workforce?
Yeah, I see employees now as our consumers of the workplace. So we talk a lot about, I work in a direct-to-consumer business, so we're talking about customers day in, day out. That is very important. But actually, for us to deliver great customer service, we need our people. So people are truly our consumers of the workplace. And I think that with different generations comes different needs. We talk about Generation Zs and millennials and them being a different workforce. And I think we have to be now a lot more individual with our offerings. It can't be one size fits all. It can't be these are the base benefits and actually having an enhanced pension. Gen Zs aren't necessarily going to, pension age is so far for them. Actually, they care more about well-being and actually they might want gym memberships versus enhanced pension or life insurance. And so creating an individual employee experience is so important and also making it really frictionless. We want our employees to come in and do their best work and thrive every single day. And that's only going to come if we create frictionless environments. So when we talk about employee experience, it can be anything from that physical environment. And COVID's taught us that everybody likes hybrid. And at Lint Bells specifically, we're talking a lot about why people actually want to come into the workplace because they can do their work from home. They like to do their work from home. They can go out to the gym. They can walk their dog. They can be there for their kids' pick up. And so what we need to do is really make sure if we want to drive people back into office environments, then we have to give them the why. And I think the younger generations are definitely asking for that context and that why. They're not just going to get told, you need to do this, and they'll do it. So I think it's really important that we have to create, individual moments and actually create that environment that people want to come to. I think technology is a massive thing as well when you're talking about the employee experience, again, especially for the tech savvy Gen Zs that are going to be growing. They've always grown up with social media, they've always grown up with technology. And we need to, again, how can we build on technology, looking at employee apps, for example, which give them, not emails but Teams, and looking at what does that look like. And I think businesses are too quick again to go, what's the simplest, easiest, kind of cost efficient solution for us? And actually we need to be saying, actually people are core, they're at the heart of everything we do. What do we need to do from their perspective to make it, again, as easy as possible? I think belonging is a huge topic, and we talk about ED&I, and I think it has to be involved in the whole organisational strategy. It can't just be a HR thing on the side. But I think, again, Gen Zs are saying, belonging is so key. I think Better Up did a study a couple of years ago, and 25% of employees don't feel a sense of belonging in their organisation. Wow. Which is a big, it's a heavy percentage. And I think that leads to performance dips. It leads to people silent quitting, which we're hearing more and more about. And I think, again, how do we need to support individuals so that they can thrive, they can be as productive as possible? Again, we know that there's a strong correlation between higher engagement, higher productivity, higher sales. Yes. So it's really important that we're thinking about how do we create a sense of belonging, and that is through, again, creating those moments that matter, creating that clarity of, I know what's expected of me at work. I feel that sense of belonging. People are hearing me when I'm giving my opinion. They're hearing me, and they're doing something about it. They're giving the context. They're giving the why. They're purpose driven, but they're purpose driven, I'd say, intentionally, rather than just greenwashing or all of those kind of words that we hear. So I think, specifically for the younger workforce, it's about creating, individualization. What does that look like? And one thing you can do is personas, so creating those employee personas, because we are running a business. It needs to be right for the business as well. So you can't kind of have lots of, I don't know, you have a workforce of 1,000, you've got 1,000 different benefits packages or things like that. So how do we create those personas? So we have four simple personas at Limp Bells, and it can be, we have warehouse staff, and actually their needs are different, and their wants are different, and their pain points are different versus somebody in an administration role or a senior role. But we build in, generational into that to say, okay, well, what does that benefits package look like? What does that performance look like? It's challenging, and I think it's scary for, most execs, not all, again, generalising, but most execs are maybe older generations, they've worked their way up, and they don't like what they seem as inconsistency. Or fairness becomes a big hot topic if you're then creating things. But again, it's, as long as there is a consistency and some fairness, I think you can build into, okay, well, Joe wants something versus somebody else. And I think we've been able to kind of do 4 simple personas for our business. We're about 180 people, and it helps us target things to say, okay, well, this person is going to want this, or that person's going to want that. So it creates that division, and it makes people feel like, okay, my experience is unique to me. I think leadership is so important. 70% of engagement comes from your manager and your leader, and they've got such an important part to play in the employee experience. Understanding their individuals as individuals. Again, the human touch, that empathy is so important, especially for we talk a lot about the Gen Zs, but especially for them, that they're not gonna be managed by task-orientated managers who just think, okay, I need to manage by task. So I think that's leadership development and leadership is so important, and exec sponsorship. It can't be seen as another HR project or HR topic of the month. It has to be, this is business transformation. If we're talking about creating a world-class employee experience that fits the whole workforce, it has to be a business transformational project that you involve everybody in.
Yeah, people say you don't leave your company, you leave your boss when you resign. So, and that's very true. We've kind of seen that happen, time and time again. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you were saying about managers and leaders especially. So Gen Z get a lot of kind of shtick from certain demographics and certain types of individuals. Let's debunk some of the myths about Gen Z. So what are the top 3 myths about Gen Z work employees, and let's kind of like deep dive into those.
Yeah, the first one I think I get said a lot is they're lazy because they want to work the hours that they're paid to work, not 12-hour, 14-hour days. Yeah. And I think, again, because we're creating those environments, they can work for home, they just want more flexibility, and flexibility is so important. We look at future of the work trends, and flexibility is highest from a well-being point of view. And Gen Zs are putting their well-being first and foremost because they're putting themselves first and foremost. Yeah. And instead of burning out, they're going, no, I'm going to work my hours because I want to go and, I work to live, not live to work, which I think older generations just kind of did because it was the norm, it was what was expected. Yeah. So I think that it's about creating the environment that they can be as productive as possible. And I think Limp Bells has got over 60% Gen Zs and millennials combined, and they are very productive. They're very head down, they're very focused, they want the clarity, they want to know why they're doing something. Once they've got that clear direction, they are unstoppable. So we have to create that clarity and allow them to be unstoppable, but also accept that they will clock off at 5, and that is okay because we're not paying them to work a 12-hour day. We're paying them to work their hours. And yes, there are going to be times where you need to put in a bit more of hours or this or that. But actually, we have to really focus and give them that opportunity to work their hours. And as long as they're productive in those hours, we're really driving their performance, we're driving their development and progression, then that's all we can ask for. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. I think as an older millennial, I really drank the Kool-Aid on the kind of work hard, you'll succeed if you kind of put the hours in. So many goodwill hours I gave to, all of my early employers. And, all that does is burn you out. Yeah. And I think, Gen Z are showing up, they're disrupting the workforce in many ways. And I think that kind of work-life balance piece is key because we all benefit. Every employee, whether you're a boomer, Gen X, whatever, you will all benefit from an improved work-life balance. Work hard when you're at work, get the work done, and your evenings are your own. And I think, instead of criticising them for it, maybe we can all kind of be a bit more Gen Z in that respect.
Yeah, definitely. And presenteeism, how many people probably just stick around just to stick around and be seen, and sometimes we've rewarded that behaviour. Well, they're very hard working. Well, actually, look at the output. Actually, let's not care about how many hours. Just focus on the output. And like you said, well-being is it's not all about yoga and smoothies and fruit in the workplace. It's really about again, that flexibility, giving them purpose behind their work, really caring, showing genuine care for them. And like you said, Gen Zs are saying, well, that's what I want.
Amazing. Yeah. So what do you think there are 3 things a business can do today to help and improve their EX?
I always think a strategy and a plan is so important. I think it's so easy to go, this sounds like a good thing to do. The evidence has said the evidence is there. To quote another study, McKinsey showed that those employees that have more positive employee and work experience are 16 times more likely to be engaged. So, but I think you can't do everything. There's always going to be restrictions, or whether it's budgetary or just the focus of the organisation. So I think having a real strategy and plan and roadmap that's fit for your organisation is really key. Working in P-backed, fast growth, fast changing businesses, you can't really plan 3-4 years. So I do a 6-month roadmap of what does that look like, and really focus on those brilliant basics. So is it that actually you create a great onboarding experience? So you've managed to attract the stars, and you've picked, you've got a diamond there. What you want to do is give them the best onboarding experience you can. That's not going to cost that much money. People aren't going to want the gump that sometimes comes. That's really nice to have. I'm sure we've got some branded T-shirts we can always throw in for everyone. But I think it's about giving them that first moment that matters, is that onboarding. And we created Embarking, which is a 9-week onboarding journey, and it's really upped our year one attrition. So we did see a drop in our year one attrition, and we were hiring the right talent, we just weren't onboarding them correctly. So really making sure that you really focus on actually what's going to work for my organisation. I think try and do it not by yourself. I think sometimes going out to that organisation, and again, it doesn't have to be big surveys all the time. As a HR professional, I spend loads of time just talking to the talent that I have. They are the best source of knowledge. What's working, what's not, what's the current pain point? What can we do to support you? Asking those questions and having those water cooler conversations, whether that could be just a Teams call or actually being a physical coffee chat or walk, that can give you the best insight. And also that means you're going to focus on the right things that is actually affecting your employees, rather than saying it's a theoretical strategy. So I'd say strategy and roadmap is absolutely key. I think we talked a lot about individualization. So how can you really create those individual moments that matter, or whether it's upskilling managers to really focus on, showing genuine concern for that person in front of them. Yes, the policy or the rule says this, but I know your circumstances, so I'm going to adapt for you. Or how do I create individual talent roadmaps? So progression is so key. We talked about Gen Zs, their progression is so key. Sometimes, again, another myth is they're entitled. Well, no, they're just, again, standing up for what they believe in and actually saying, this is what I'm entitled to. Progression is, again, really key for them. So how do we create those maps or progress? And that is also saying that they are responsible. So we have PDPs, but they are responsible for driving their own PDP. I think that's so key. So I think individualization is so key, and that is, we've done some leadership work, management work on developing. So how do they, again, task-focused managers and managers, they are managing teams, but they're also managing a big workload themselves. So again, creating the focus for them and helping them go, okay, the rule says this, but how do I tailor it to the individual? So the individual feels really special in that moment. Again, that's going to really drive higher engagement. And then lastly, collective responsibility. I say it time and time again, HR isn't, and people teams, I think if it's seen as a business transformational project, it gets a lot more validity, it gets a lot more involvement than, it's just HR doing something over there. So I think collective responsibility is so key when you're driving EX.
Awesome. So we've talked a bit about leaders and the kind of pitfalls and the impact they can have on the workforce. In terms of EE and EX, what tips can you give to managers and leaders?
I think I've got three tips. I think firstly, you have to create psychological safety. Employees are looking to employers for trust. Everything is built on trust. And I think psychological safety for me is the foundation of everything. We need to be creating safe spaces. We talked about belonging, we talked about flexibility, we talked about progression. That's only going to come from creating that trust between you and the employee. And I think managers have to not take that for granted. That doesn't come as, you know, I've given you a job, I'm paying you to do a job, therefore, you know, we've got this psychological safety. It comes from nurturing, it comes from focus, it comes from time and patience. And I think that is so key across every generation. I think leaders really can't take that for granted. You have to put the time, the energy into that, because trust takes a long time to build and it's very quick to disappear. So doing what you say you're going to do, genuinely show concern for individuals, really believe in them and give them stretch. And it doesn't mean that you can't be constructive or corrective. Actually, when you've got a brilliant psychological safety between two people, that's when the time when you can give some really strong feedback, you know, constructive and corrective feedback, and that employee is going to listen, they're going to take it on board, and they're going to be grateful and see that feedback as a gift. If there isn't that trust between them, they're going to react very defensively. Oh, you know, a brain will react very defensively to that feedback. So I think psychological safety is absolutely key. I think second is clarity. To get engagement, to get engaged workforce, which we know is so key to the organisational success and productivity, and you know, ultimately, you know, driving more sales or profitability. I think giving people role clarity is so key. Clarity, I know what's expected of me. I think that is so key. That whether that's through goal setting, objectives, impact descriptions or job descriptions, you know, really knowing what is expected of them is so key. And thirdly, I think removing obstacles. It's so easy to put obstacles in the way and have obstacles that we don't even know exists. Again, employee experience is going to be more positive when it feels frictionless. It feels quite simple and easy. So we need, as managers, part of our job is to remove those obstacles for people to thrive. It could be obstacles with relationships with co-workers, they can't collaborate. It can be that something seems really scary and they don't know how to do something. I think that, again, is for leaders to remove obstacles. So I'd say the three things: psychological safety, providing clarity, and removing those obstacles.
Becca, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such an enlightening conversation, and I hope everyone who watches this enjoys it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.